Rape and sexual abuse are prevalent forms of violence in our society, manifesting in various ways. These include non-consensual sex, exploitation in the flesh trade, or human trafficking, kidnapping and rape for financial gain, abuse by intimate acquaintances or family members, and coercion by threats. Even legal partners can perpetuate sexual abuse. In addition, there are cases of rape by strangers, neighbors, or acquaintances who trespass privacy while traveling or at home. In astrological terms, the fourth house represents distorted self-identity and is often linked to rape cases. The seventh house is associated with conjugal fidelity and equality. The eighth house represents unequal and forced relationships, while the 12th house is associated with illegal and unconventional sexual behavior. To determine the likelihood of rape and sexual abuse, astrologers consider the internal relationships between planets such as Venus, Rahu, Saturn, Mars, Gulika, Sun, and Ketu. Furthermore, the presence of certain planetary combinations in a female horoscope can indicate a higher risk of rape and sexual abuse. A weak Venus or its affliction by Rahu, Saturn, Mars, Gulika, Sun, or Ketu can be particularly concerning. These planetary combinations can manifest in various ways, such as, firstly, when a weak Venus is afflicted by Rahu, it means sudden and unexpected influence, suggesting a gang attack or sudden and violent assault. Secondly, when a weak Venus is afflicted by Saturn, indicates a prolonged and painful impact. Thirdly, a weak Venus association with Mars indicate violence, military, or police, implying a forceful or coercive attack. Fourthly, Gulika's influence can inflict a disgusting and vulgar behavior, suggesting a degrading or humiliating experience. Fifthly, a weak Venus's association with suns means a threatening or fear-inducing energy, implying a sense of vulnerability or fear. Lastly, Ketu's role indicate planned and intentional attacks, suggesting a deliberate and calculated act of violence. These planetary combinations can contribute to an increased risk of rape and sexual abuse in a female horoscope. In female horoscopes, the presence of these planets in certain positions can also suggest a higher likelihood of rape and sexual abuse. Now let's analyze everything in detail. The eighth house, associated with Scorpio, represents a complex and mysterious realm of human experience. In mythological terms, the story of Indra's betrayal of Ahalya, the wife of Gautam Rishi, is often cited as the first recorded instance of rape in human history. Ahalya, a devoted wife and Sati Pativrata, was transformed into a stone after being ravished by Indra. This transformation is said to symbolize the state of helplessness and emotional numbness that victims often experience in the aftermath of such traumatic events. In astrological terms, the fourth house is often seen as a critical indicator of a person's emotional and psychological well-being, particularly when it comes to matters related to women. Therefore, when examining a birth chart to identify individuals who are prone to rape or sexual abuse, it's essential to focus on the fourth house first. This house is said to reveal the underlying psychological dynamics and emotional vulnerabilities that may make an individual more susceptible to such exploitation. The fourth house in a female birth chart represents the qualities of self-fidelity and the fertile womb, while the seventh house represents conjugal fidelity and is associated with the proposed husband or lover. This piety cannot be taken away without the individual's consent, and any violation of this is considered a social crime and a violation of the law. The fourth and seventh houses are also important for understanding the places and ways of sexual pleasure. In cases where malevolence is present in the fourth-seventh house axis, it's essential to examine the lords of these houses as they may be indicators of rape or sexual abuse. The fourth house is associated with mobs, vehicles, and Rahu, which can indicate sudden and violent events. A weak lord in an inimical sign, combust, debilitated, or eclipsed, can be a supportive factor in assessing the likelihood of such incidents. The seventh house is also important for understanding conjugal alliances, and if it describes sex relationships based on equality and legality. Then the 8th house may indicate sex relationships based on inequality and intrusion. When external forces enter the intimate waters of the 8th house, it can be referred to as rape or sexual abuse. In the context of the 12th house, if there is malevolence or weakness, it can indicate that the pleasure of bed is shared with other women, either through extramarital affairs or through other means. Therefore, when examining the 12th house, it's essential to be cautious. In general, a weak or afflicted ascendant or its lord can be an indicator of fatal events. The natural zodiac signs associated with sexual happiness and pleasure are Cancer, while the sign of virginity or puberty is Virgo. The rulers of these signs, Moon and Mercury, play a significant role in assessing the likelihood of rape cases. Both planets are crucial for controlling the nerves and mind. If malevolent effects are present on these signs or their lords, it can indicate that the chart is prone to rape or sexual abuse. The term virginity is used in a broader sense to include not only physical virginity, but also conjugal fidelity, which is only consummated with consent. If there is any malevolence effect on these signs and their lords, it can suggest that the chart is more likely to experience rape or sexual abuse. In essence, the presence of malevolent effects on Cancer and Virgo, or their rulers, Moon and Mercury, can indicate that the individual's chart is more susceptible to experiences of rape or sexual abuse. Venus is considered the core planet in determining the likelihood of sexual abuse and rape. If Venus is weak and afflicted, the chart is more prone to these experiences. Venus is associated with delicacy, bodily fragrance, discipline, lovemaking, and sexual pleasure, and its weakness or affliction can indicate distortions in these areas. The natural malefic planets, such as Mars, Sun, Saturn, and nodes, can also contribute to the likelihood of rape or sexual abuse. Rahu's affliction is considered particularly malevolent and can indicate sudden and violent events. The 4th house is associated with gatherings of people, vehicles, and sudden events, which can be linked to gang rape or other forms of sexual abuse. Mars's affliction can indicate harm, harassment, or slaying, while Saturn's affliction can signify old age abuse or prolonged and painful suffering. The placement of Saturn and Ketu in the 4th house can indicate desolate or cemetery-like places. The Sun's affliction can indicate abuses from authority figures or fatherly figures. The 6th, 8th, and the 12th houses from Venus are also considered important for assessing the likelihood of sexual abuse, as they can indicate distortions in Venus's natural significations. The Navamsa chart can be used to verify the occurrence of these events. Additionally, the Vimsotari Dasa system can be used to assess the timing of these events based on astrological acumen. The Gulika Mandi is also considered important in determining the likelihood of rape or sexual abuse. It represents all that is vulgar, base, sordid, and disgusting, and its association with any house or planet can bring out these qualities in the relationship or situation. The other most significant factor in determining the likelihood of sexual abuse and rape is the nakshatra associated with sex and puberty. The 3 most important nakshatras in this context are Punarvasu, Vishakha, and Purvab Hadrapada, which all involve the Kamatrikona and Moksha Trikona. Punarvasu is associated with puberty or sattva, or conjugal self-fidelity, indicating a sense of purity and loyalty in relationships. Vishakha is connected to sex relations of legality and equality, but can also indicate sex by intrusion and force if afflicted. Purvabhadrapada is associated with distorted bed pleasure if afflicted. Jupiter, the lord of these nakshatras, is the only protecting planet in this context. If Jupiter is also afflicted, it can lead to fatal consequences. Any affliction in transit to these constellations with Jupiter must be carefully examined to determine the likelihood of a rape event. Astrologers are requested to study these analogy results on multiple charts to arrive at concrete conclusions about rape and sexual abuse. It is relatively easy to analyze the aftermath of a rape, but much more challenging to predict the event itself.